Prime Minister Modi is on a 3-day visit to Sri Lanka. This visit aims to strengthen the ties between the two countries. One of the major topics on the agenda is a defense pact to counter China's growing influence in the region, as well as addressing the fishermen issue. The agreement would formalize existing military engagements such as joint exercises, training programs, and hardware supply under a structured framework. Prime Minister Modi received an official welcome from Sri Lanka's president. Yesterday, Prime Minister Modi received a rousing welcome from the Indian diaspora. This visit is especially important as Sri Lanka is still recovering from its economic crisis. India has already extended $4 billion in financial aid and helped restructure loans.
Well, I expect to have much closer relations, and that we've been talking of many connectivity projects, other projects that we can now start actually agreeing and implementing it. We have to operationalize the agreement. I hope that will be that will take place when Prime Minister Modi is here.
My colleague Geeta Mohan is joining me live on the broadcast from Colombo. Geeta, how many MOUs are expected to be signed during this visit, and in which sectors? What can you tell us?
About 10 is what we're given to understand. It could be more or less around the same. We discussed the defense agreement, but there are also agreements and MOUs that are going to be signed on healthcare, infrastructure. We're looking at energy cooperation between the two sides. One energy project will be inaugurated by the two leaders. That is going to be an important one. Railway projects, ports and seas. So there are a lot of development projects that both sides are looking at, but also digitalization, healthcare. These are areas that the two sides are going to cooperate on. We are also given to understand that there is going to be major, and in terms of the defense agreement that we were talking about, this is a major development because it's historic, and it certainly is going to look at how Sri Lanka and India both together view the architecture, security architecture in and around the Indian Ocean. So that's one important aspect of the ties between the two countries. Comes with a new leadership here in Colombo and Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his third term. So there is going to be what many say continuum, so to say, when it comes to these agreements that are being signed, the policies that the two countries are looking at, furthering of interest that the two countries are interested in. There certainly is going to be continuum there, because what two countries, particularly in the neighborhood, require really is stability. And if you have stable governments or stability in countries, the region then prospers. So it is in India's interest to ensure that they really put in the stakes and in Sri Lanka to ensure that Sri Lanka prospers, because that further increases the stability of the region itself. India and Indian neighborhood particularly has seen a lot of chaos in the recent past, be it Sri Lanka, the Maldives, Bangladesh, Nepal, Myanmar, you name it, and there has been Afghanistan, Pakistan, you name it, and the countries have experienced a lot of instability. So for India, the countries that are friendly and not inimical to India or Indian interests are the countries that India is investing in, and Sri Lanka certainly is one of those very important countries, also very important geostrategically placed when it comes to the Indian Ocean, and therefore the investment.
We are getting live visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Dasanayake from the bilateral meet that just took place.
Today marks a moment of shared progress as we jointly inaugurate key projects and exchange important memorandums of understanding. These milestones will be followed by the press statements from our two esteemed leaders, reflecting the spirit of partnership and mutual respect that continues to guide our bilateral relations. We shall first witness the exchange of memorandums of understanding across a wide range of sectors, reflecting the breadth and the depth of our bilateral cooperation. The first exchange is the MOU between the Government of the Republic of India and the Government of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka for the implementation of HVDC interconnection for import-export of power. This will be exchanged on Sri Lankan side by Professor KTM Udayanga Hemapala, Secretary, Ministry of Energy, and will be exchanged on Indian side by Sri Vikram Misri, Foreign Secretary.
So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Sri Lankan President Dasanayake are set to sign a Memorandum of Understanding. Now, the visit is aimed at enhancing bilateral defense relations and strengthening partnerships in energy, trade and connectivity sectors. It remains to be seen what the statement will say on what exactly the deal was and what the MOUs exactly say. But the leaders are expected to finalize a significant defense cooperation agreement following recent discussions between Prime Minister Modi and President Dasanayake. I'm going to go to my colleague Geeta Mohan, who continues to be with us on the story. Geeta, we are getting live visuals from the bilateral meet where we're seeing Prime Minister Modi and Sri Lankan President ready to sign a Memorandum of Understanding. Will there be any follow-up, you think, on the previously signed MOUs, given the fact that India has bailed out and given financial assistance of $4 billion to Sri Lanka? Do you think in the post-COVID recovery phase, there could be any follow-up on previous MOUs? Right, we're going to try and establish that connection with Geeta in just a bit, but I am being joined by Madhuri Rana Singhe, Political and International Relations Analyst.
Thank you very much, Mr. Varnasri Dhanapala, Acting Secretary, Ministry of Digital Economy. We will now witness the exchange of a trilateral MOU between the Government of the Republic of India, the Government of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, and the Government of United Arab Emirates for the cooperation in the development of Trincomalee as an energy hub. This will be exchanged on Sri Lankan side by Professor KTM Udayanga Hemapala, Secretary, Ministry of Energy, and this will be exchanged on the Indian side by Sri Vikram Misri, Foreign Secretary, and will be exchanged on the UAE side by Mr. Khalid Nazar Al Ameri, Ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to Sri Lanka. Thank you very much, Professor KTM Udayanga Hemapala and Mr. Khalid Nazar Al Ameri. The next is the exchange of the MOU between the Government of the Republic of India and the Government of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka on defense cooperation. This will be exchanged on the Sri Lankan side by Air Vice Marshal Sampath Thuyakonta, retired Secretary, Ministry of Defense, and will be exchanged on the Indian side by Sri Vikram Misri, Foreign Secretary. Thank you very much, gentlemen. You may resume your seating now. The next is the MOU on the multi-sectoral grant assistance for Eastern Province. This will be exchanged on the Sri Lankan side by Mr. K.M.M. Siddhiwardana, Secretary, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and will be exchanged on the Indian side by Sri Santosh Jha, the High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka. Thank you very much, Mr. K.M.M. Siddhiwardana, Secretary, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and would like to call upon Sri Santosh Jha, the High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, to kindly remain for the further exchanges of MOU. We will now witness the exchange of the MOU between the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of India and the Ministry of Health and Mass Media of Sri Lanka on the cooperation in the field of health and medicine. This will be exchanged on the Sri Lankan side by Dr. Anil Jasingha, Secretary, Ministry of Health and Mass Media, and will be exchanged on the Indian side by Sri Santosh Jha, the High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka. Gentlemen, please remain. The next is the MOU on the pharmacopoeia cooperation between the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of India and the National Medicines Regulatory Authority of Sri Lanka. This will be exchanged on the Sri Lankan side by Dr. Anil Jalsingha, Secretary, Ministry of Health and Mass Media, and this will be exchanged on the Indian side by Sri Santosh Jha, the High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Next, we are ready to move on to the next segment of today's ceremony. We are ready to witness the virtual groundbreaking of the Sampur Solar Power Project. It's time to take a look at a short video highlighting the key features and the significance of this landmark project.
India and Sri Lanka share an eternal bond weaved by civilizational ties, cultural connect, and age-old goodwill. Under the visionary leadership of Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi, India has emerged as the principal development partner of Sri Lanka.
So we're seeing key memorandums that are going to be signed between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Dasanayake. I'm also being joined by Madhuri Rana Singhe, political and international relations analyst. Ma'am, my first question to you is that defense cooperation is something that is being talked about, that has been talked about essentially. What kind of agreements do you see taking place? What are you realistically expecting?
So we are expecting something in maritime surveillances and to increase the safety and the defense mechanisms in the Indian Ocean area. I believe when you look at the past activities and how these different countries have been engaging with, there's a lot of discussion about Indian Ocean and how the economy and the values and the cooperation between the countries. If you look at PM Modi's last visit, he visited BIMSTEC conference in Thailand. So there also he was talking about 21 action plan, and it also had a defense and some related actions. So I believe this is basically going to be about maritime surveillances and defense mechanisms, and it will be very beneficial for Sri Lanka. At the same time, there will be certain constraints on the Chinese parties, but at the moment, I believe as Sri Lankans, India is more closer to us, and it is more, they are more, we are more reliant on India than China at the moment. So it is, as I see, it will be a benefit for Sri Lanka, and I hope these strategies and maritime surveillances and all these defense mechanisms will bring more opportunities for our defense forces and the countries for the progress as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring in my colleague Geeta Mohan, who also continues to be with us on the broadcast. She's reporting live from Colombo. Geeta, what I want to ask you is that do you think that there will be any follow-up on previously signed MOUs, especially in the post-COVID recovery phase? Because we've seen that India has bailed out Sri Lanka in the past, after COVID as well, the $4 billion aid to Sri Lanka. What can you tell us about the follow-up on previously signed MOUs?
Well, that happens on a regular basis. There's always a review of all the agreements and MOUs that have been signed in the past, and it's a work in progress. It continues, but it's about going forward from here. And when new fresh MOUs are signed, they're signed in the same sectors. The sectors don't change. If last time around, because of the COVID pandemic, there was a lot a lot of understanding and agreements and exchange between the two sides on vaccines, on medicine. This time around, it's about healthcare. We do have the list of MOUs and agreements that have been signed, and like we were saying, there is one on import-export of power. The energy cooperation is a very significant part of cooperation between the two countries. They're also looking at cooperation in the field of sharing successful digital solutions. Like I said, digitalization is going to be a very important part. Then there is also another one, which interestingly is not bilateral, it's trilateral. The Trincomalee Business Hub and Energy Hub is not just going to be an India-Sri Lanka venture, it's going to be an India-UAE-Sri Lanka venture. So in the signing ceremony, we also had a representative from the United Arab Emirates who was there in the exchange of documents, or during the exchange of documents. So that's interesting. It's not just bilateral. They're looking at trilateral, getting in partners and allies to come work in Sri Lanka, with Sri Lanka, for the prosperity and development of Sri Lanka. This is the Trincomalee Energy Hub that both countries were looking at, and now they've also roped in the United Arab Emirates. There is also an MOU between the two countries on defense cooperation that finally has been signed on dotted lines, and the exchange took place between Air Vice Marshal Sampath and Secretary in the Ministry of Defense, and KMM Sirivardhana, who is Ministry of from the Indian side. It was Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri. Then there is another on grants and assistance for the Eastern Province. Very important for India. India will look at the Tamil outreach, and this is that Tamil outreach. There have been multi-sectoral aid and assistance that has been provided to Sri Lanka on that front in the past as well. And you asked about agreements and MOUs that have been signed in the past. There's a regular review that happens of relations and where things are headed. India has been monitoring very closely the payments that it has made to Sri Lanka, whether it is taking them out of the economic trouble and providing them debt relief, because they were late on their payments and that amounted to billions of dollars, or right now when they're looking at debt restructuring for Sri Lanka, and then looking at how to revive the economy to ensure that Sri Lanka
in India-Sri Lanka energy cooperation with the inauguration of supply of solar rooftop systems.
Right, I'm going to go back to my guest Madhuri Ranasinghe, who continues to be with me on the broadcast. Madhuri, sticking with the subject of energy cooperation, what role do you think India is expected to play in Sri Lanka's long-term energy future? We know that the power project is crucial for Sri Lanka, and it has been trying to reduce its dependence on fossil fuel for power generation. So what role do you think India can play in Sri Lanka's long-term energy future?
What I see here is as India grows and India's economy is getting into, they are targeting to go to the $1 trillion economy. And with that, Sri Lanka also can be a part of this whole regional cooperation. And for that, I believe energy sustainability and how we can proceed to have more green energy in the country will be quite important. To be honest, when we talk about different action plans, I'm again referring to the BIMSTEC conference that happened in Thailand. They talked about starting a BIMSTEC energy center. And he also talked about electric grid connectivity. And I think these are some things that we are also looking forward to with this electric grid connection. We will be able to share our energy, and we also be able to share energy from India. And since Sri Lanka is a country which is separated from the mainland, India can be our gateway to the mainland, and lot more resources, lot more connectivity, and lot more opportunities. This is how we see it. With energy connectivity, we are getting more opportunity. And as we talk, if you look at the world context right now, you can see how countries are struggling in terms of energy, and they are trying to bring more sustainable
Right,
energy.
Madhuri, I will be coming back to you, but President Dasanayake is speaking.
Excellency Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Honorable Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends from the media, Ayubowan, Vanakkam, Namaste, good morning.
අපගේ රජයේ
I
පිහිටවීමෙන්
warmly
පසු
welcome
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට
His
පැමිණෙන පළමු
Excellency
රාජ්‍ය නායකයා ලෙස
Shri
අතිගරු
Narendra
ඉන්දියානු
Modi,
අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය ශ්‍රී
Prime
නරේන්ද්‍ර
Minister of
මෝදි
India,
මැතිතුමා සහ
and his
සම්භාවනීය දූත පිරිස
distinguished delegation
මම
to Sri
උණුසුම් ලෙස
Lanka as
පිළිගන්නවා.
our first state guest
සම්ප්‍රදායික
after the
නොවන දේශපාලන
establishment of our
පසුබිමකින් පැමිණ
government.
සිය
This
රට
visit reflects
දියුණු
the
නව ලෝකයක්
closeness
කරා
and
ගමන්
the
කිරීමට
friendliness
බාධාවක්
of
පවතින
the relations
So
that
that's
Sri
President
Lanka
Dasanayake that is issuing a statement right now. I'm going to go back to my colleague Geeta Mohan, who continues to be on the broadcast with more details. Geeta, how do you think now, at this point, India is now planning to expand bilateral trade with Sri Lanka? What can you tell us in a broader perspective?
As a government, and we appreciate.
Well, we are listening to the president of Sri Lanka, and he's yet to complete his statement. Prime Minister Modi will be speaking also and delivering his remarks. The focus and the thrust has been cooperation between the two countries, and there is, and the two sides are upbeat when it comes to how they're going to look at various sectors and the sectoral cooperation. The two leaders just moments ago inaugurated the Sampura energy, the solar energy plant, which is very, very important. And that certainly is going to be a focus. We really need to know whether if the president is mentioning the issue of fishermen or not, and whether if that was raised during the talks. Tamil and devolution of powers to Tamils, justice for the Tamil community in Sri Lanka is something that India has been talking about, raising with Sri Lanka at all intervals, at all regular meetings, and at the highest level. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has done it too. We do know that that was something that would be part of the conversations, and he is going to meet the Tamil leadership over here. Again, we'll have to wait and see what the president's statement is, and whether he is going to raise the issue of or mention the issue of Tamils and fishermen in his statement that's taking place right now.
But Geeta, do you think the issue, the Kachativa issue, could impact bilateral negotiations on the fishing rights and the maritime boundaries with how it has resurfaced in Indian politics?
Sri Lanka and India.
Well, again, we'll have to wait and see whether if those issues came up. The president's and the prime minister's statements are being made right now. We were given to understand that Tamil fishermen issue did come up and is a major point of contention between India and Sri Lanka. Indian Tamil fishermen being apprehended in and around Kachetivu Island and being brought to Sri Lanka, detained over here. It's a long, tedious process. Their boats are not given in time. They're also kept with the authorities over here. So these are humanitarian issues, and India has been raising it constantly. Dr. Jaishankar has been separately also talking about this very sensitive issue in Tamil Nadu. And so we'll again have to wait and see what that solution is to the existing problem, and a problem that has existed for years and decades now.
Absolutely, Geeta. I'm going to go back to my guest, Madhuri Rana Singhe, who continues to be on the broadcast with us. Madhuri, with China's presence in Sri Lankan ports, is India stepping in to reclaim lost ground? What do you think? What can you tell us?
Good question. When China's actually trying to get an oil refinery in Hambantota port, and I believe this discussion is also going towards getting an oil refinery in Trincomalee for India. So I think if I talk in the sense of Sri Lankan context, we need to find a proper balance between the countries. And I know India is a good friend of Sri Lanka, and as Sri Lankans, we respect and we actually are grateful to India, especially how they have like gifted us, and they have given loans to us in the past. And this is really really critical situation. But I believe when it comes to this political party also, if you look at their history, they've always been haters of India, but right now they are embracing India. In that sense, I believe India will have a better chances in Sri Lanka when it comes to these two countries. I believe Sri Lanka is moving forward to a more friendlier relationship with India than in the past, especially when it comes to how they've helped us, really helped us during the economic crisis. A lot of people, even political scenarios has changed, and it'll been a lot. And I feel like in terms of the relationship, Sri Lanka will be turning towards India more frequently than into China at the moment. And to be honest, when we look at the economic sense also, it makes sense, and it's more beneficial for us to have India as our best friend to navigate our problems and go towards a better economy, or maybe to solve our problems in terms of regional cooperation, or maybe on the trade front as well. As you can see right now, there's going to be a big issues with Trump administration's tariffs coming up. There'll be a lot of issues. So in that sense, regional cooperation and how we navigate these problems as a region will be far better, and will be more beneficial to all of us than looking into other stakeholders. That's my take on this. And I believe like becoming better friends and getting into more regional collaboration is the way to go.
Right. I'm going to go back to my colleague Geeta Mohan to bring in her perspective. Geeta, how do you think India is looking to offset China's influence in Sri Lanka? What are your thoughts?
Well, the fact that China has always been a presence and a thought, and so we have a monitor lizard right behind me, and I'm trying to be a little careful. But yes, India monitors issues to do with China, China's presence in Sri Lanka. It is an important one. And while India does that, India also understands that it is not just a space to compete with Sri Lanka. It's also a space where both countries have to work and cooperate and move forward. Sri Lanka has the right to, and our own External Affairs Minister has been talking about it, strategic autonomy, has the right to choose doing business with countries that they want to do business with. And over here we are looking at Sri Lanka engaging India on a defense agreement and engaging Sri Lanka to continue with the Belt and Road Initiative. So there has been no pullout on that front, whereas we have seen other countries pulling out. So Sri Lanka is going to remain engaged. Sri Lanka is going to remain engaged when it comes to India and projects with India. Defense agreement is a step forward. In just moments from moments ago, the Sampur solar power project was launched. That's a big one. It's not a bilateral, it's a trilateral. The UAE government is also involved in ensuring that Trincomalee becomes an energy hub for Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka is able to produce energy for its own country. Is also maybe then in the future look at exporting. But for now, we're looking at energy hub, industrial hub, healthcare cooperation, defense cooperation, securing the Indian Ocean. These are very important aspects of cooperation between the two sides. In fact, the question should not always be about how India monitors Chinese projects in Sri Lanka. It's also the other way around, how China monitors the inroads India has managed to make, the position that India is in Sri Lanka. There has been a loss in diplomatic clout for China, and they should be the ones monitoring as well as to where New Delhi is and where New Delhi stands as first responders coming in aid and assistance of Sri Lanka, and providing that assistance to Sri Lanka at a time when they were in dire need of that assistance. So, and Sri Lankan administration recognizes, accepts, and acknowledges that as well. So it's not just about monitoring; it's about understanding that there are always going to be players in the region. That's how a globalized world works. But India has made important headway in not just the trade and economic and connectivity front, religious tourism being one part of it, but also on the strategic front.
Right, I'm going to bring in Madhuri Rana Singh as well on this. Madhuri, what are your thoughts? How do you think Colombo is managing its strategic tightrope walk between India and China at the moment?
I think they're doing fine at the moment. Like I said earlier, when you look at the political views of the current government, it has improved a lot. From their past, they have come to the friendship with India, which is commendable. And I believe they are handling this pretty well in terms of how they are moving towards the economy with India and how they are handling Chinese influence as well. But at the same time, I'm not gonna predict on anything. The future is quite unpredictable at the moment. We don't know how it will turn out, especially when you look at how volatile the international circumstances has recently been, coming into how Trump administration is uh, putting these tariffs on, how international trade is affected by these decisions. I'm quite unsure how it will turn out at in the future, but at the moment they're handling it pretty well, and I'm really glad to see how they are cooperating with India, putting with it. Even though if you look at the political, I mean, I'm again going for the political lens. If you look at the political side of this government, they are more lenient towards the China and they have a communist background. Again, they are, when you look at these corporations and how they are moving forward with it, we can see a development. We can see that how they are like adapting to these systems and trying to negotiate with everyone and trying to bring up friendliness in these relationships. And I feel like they're handling this very, quite diplomatically, and how they are moving forward is apprehendable. And honestly, with the recent turbulences in the international trade, I'm not quite sure how they will handle it at the moment, but let's see. So far, they have done amazing, and I believe they will do quite okay in future as well. But I'm still a bit hesitant to comment on how it will be in the future. Thinking of how international trade could be. Even for India, it will be a bit of a trouble, and for Sri Lanka at the moment, we got the highest tariff from this whole South Asia. So we need to figure out what to do about this and how to find more countries, how to find more markets to get our exports. With these issues going on, let's see how it goes. But at the moment, when you talk about handling India and Chinese influence, I'm quite positive, and I actually commend the current government because they have put their differences behind. Let's see how they are moving forward in the future.
Right. All right. So I'm also going to bring in Geeta Mohan, who also continues to be with us on the broadcast. Geeta, do you think this visit by Prime Minister Modi to Sri Lanka is part of a larger Indian effort to counter China's Belt and Road footprint in Sri Lanka? What can you tell us about that?
Well, I don't think India is looking to counter any initiative anymore, because India has come a long way in Sri Lanka. The countering of China, Chinese influence, Chinese growing influence has been an ongoing thing for a very long time. But the 2022 economic crisis changed things around, turned things around for India. India does monitor what China is doing. The Belt and Road Initiative is an important project for President Xi Jinping, and it does allow China inroads into Sri Lanka. So the monitoring happens on a continuous basis, but India has found its own space in the geostrategic space.
So Geeta, I will be coming back to you, but Prime Minister Modi is currently receiving the ceremonial Guard of Honor. We see President Dasanayake presenting him with a Guard of Honor. Now, this meet, which is crucial, we can see a huge, great camaraderie between the Indian Prime Minister and the Sri Lankan President, with the Sri Lankan President presenting Prime Minister Modi with a Guard of Honor. Now, the visit was aimed at enhancing bilateral ties, defense relations, and strengthening partnerships in energy, trade, and connectivity sectors. Prime Minister Modi will be issuing a statement shortly. Let's listen in.
राष्ट्रपति दिसानायक जी, दोनों देशों के डेलीगेट्स, मीडिया के सभी साथी, नमस्कार। आयु भवन। वणक्कम। आज राष्ट्रपति दिसानायक द्वारा श्रीलंका मित्र विभूषण से सम्मानित किया जाना मेरे लिए गौरव की बात है। यह सम्मान केवल मेरा सम्मान नहीं, बल्कि यह 140 करोड़ भारतीयों का सम्मान है। यह भारत और श्रीलंका के लोगों के बीच ऐतिहासिक संबंधों और गहरी मित्रता का सम्मान है। इस सम्मान के लिए मैं राष्ट्रपति जी का, श्रीलंका सरकार और यहाँ के लोगों का हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। फ्रेंड्स, प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में श्रीलंका का यह मेरा चौथा दौरा है। 29 की मेरी पिछली यात्रा एक बहुत ही संवेदनशील समय पर हुई थी। उस समय मेरा विश्वास था कि श्रीलंका विल राइज एंड राइज स्ट्रॉन्गर। मैं श्रीलंका के लोगों के धैर्य और साहस की सराहना करता हूं और आज श्रीलंका को वापस प्रगति के पथ पर देखकर हर्ष महसूस कर रहा हूं। भारत के लिए यह गर्व का विषय है कि हमने एक सच्चे पड़ोसी मित्र के रूप में अपने कर्तव्यों का निर्वहन किया है। चाहे 2019 का आतंकी हमला हो, कोविड महामारी हो या हाल में आया आर्थिक संकट, हर कठिन परिस्थिति में हम श्रीलंका के लोगों के साथ खड़े रहे हैं। मुझे महान तमिल संत थिरुवल्लुवर की बात याद आ रही है। उन्होंने कहा था, शेयर करिए याबुल नटपिण आदुपुल विणेक्करिए याबुल कापू। अर्थात चुनौतियों और शत्रुओं के विरुद्ध एक सच्चे मित्र और उसकी मित्रता की ढाल से बढ़कर और क्या सुरक्षा हो सकती है। फ्रेंड्स, राष्ट्रपति दिसानायक ने अपनी पहली विदेश यात्रा के लिए भारत को चुना था और उनके पहले विदेशी अतिथि बनने का सौभाग्य मुझे मिला है। यह हमारे विशेष संबंधों की गहराई का प्रतीक है। हमारी नेबरहुड फर्स्ट पॉलिसी और विजन महासागर दोनों में श्रीलंका का विशेष स्थान है। पिछले 4 महीनों में राष्ट्रपति दिसानायक की भारत यात्रा के बाद से हमारे सहयोग में उल्लेखनीय प्रगति हुई है। सामपुर सोलर पावर प्लांट से श्रीलंका की ऊर्जा सुविधा में मदद मिलेगी। मल्टी प्रोडक्ट पाइपलाइन के निर्माण और त्रिंकोमाली को ऊर्जा हब के रूप में विकसित किए जाने के लिए जो समझौता हुआ है, उसका लाभ श्रीलंका के सभी लोगों को मिलेगा। दोनों देशों के बीच ग्रिड इंटरकनेक्टिविटी समझौते से श्रीलंका के लिए बिजली एक्सपोर्ट करने के विकल्प खुलेंगे। मुझे खुशी है कि आज श्रीलंका में धार्मिक स्थलों के लिए 5,000 सोलर रूफटॉप सिस्टम का उद्घाटन किया जाएगा। श्रीलंका यूनिक डिजिटल आइडेंटिटी प्रोजेक्ट में भी हम सहयोग करेंगे। फ्रेंड्स, भारत ने सबका साथ सबका विकास के विजन को अपनाया है। हम अपने पार्टनर देशों की प्राथमिकताओं को भी महत्व देते हैं। पिछले 6 महीनों में ही हमने $100 मिलियन से अधिक राशि के लोन को ग्रांट में बदला है। हमारी द्विपक्षीय डेट रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग एग्रीमेंट से श्रीलंका के लोगों को तत्काल सहायता और राहत मिलेगी। आज हमने इंटरेस्ट की दर को भी कम करने का निर्णय लिया है। यह प्रतीक है कि आज भी भारत श्रीलंका के लोगों के साथ खड़ा है। पूर्वी प्रांतों के सामाजिक और आर्थिक विकास के लिए लगभग 2.4 बिलियन लंकन रुपए का सहयोग पैकेज दिया जाएगा। आज हमने किसानों की भलाई के लिए श्रीलंका के सबसे बड़े वेयर हाउसेज का भी उद्घाटन किया। कल हम माहो ओमनथाई रेल लाइन का उद्घाटन करेंगे और माहो अनुराधपुरा स्टेशन पर सिग्नल सिस्टम का भी शिलान्यास करेंगे। कांके संतुरई पोर्ट से आधुनिकीकरण के लिए काम जल्द ही शुरू किया जाएगा। श्रीलंका में इंडियन ओरिजिन तमिल कम्युनिटी के लिए 10,000 घरों का निर्माण कार्य जल्द पूरा किया जाएगा। श्रीलंका के 700 अतिरिक्त कार्मिकों को भारत में प्रशिक्षण प्रदान किया जाएगा। इसमें सांसद, न्यायपालिका से जुड़े लोग, उद्यमी, मीडिया कर्मी के साथ साथ युवा लीडर्स भी शामिल होंगे। फ्रेंड, हमारा मानना है कि हमारे सुरक्षा हित समान है। दोनों देशों की सुरक्षा एक दूसरे से जुड़ी है और एक दूसरे पर निर्भर है। भारत के हितों के प्रति उनकी संवेदनाओं के लिए मैं राष्ट्रपति दिसानायक का आभारी हूं। रक्षा सहयोग में संपन्न किए गए महत्वपूर्ण समझौते का हम स्वागत करते हैं। कोलंबो सिक्योरिटी कॉन्क्लेव और हिंद महासागर में सुरक्षा सहयोग पर भी मिलकर काम करने के लिए हम सहमत हैं। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और श्रीलंका के बीच सदियों पुराने आध्यात्मिक और आत्मीयता भरे संबंध है। मुझे यह बताते हुए अत्यंत खुशी है कि 1960 में मेरे होम स्टेट गुजरात के अरावली में मिले भगवान बुद्ध के रेलिस को श्रीलंका में दर्शन के लिए भेजा जा रहा है। त्रिंकोमाली के थिरुकोनेश्वरम मंदिर के रिनोवेशन में भारत सहयोग देगा। अनुराधपुरा महाबोधि मंदिर परिसर में सेक्रेड सिटी और नोरेलिया में सीता एलिया मंदिर के निर्माण में भी भारत सहयोग करेगा। फ्रेंड्स, हमने मछुआरों की आजीविका से जुड़े मुद्दों पर भी चर्चा की। हम सहमत हैं कि हमें इस मामले में एक मानवीय अप्रोच के साथ आगे बढ़ना चाहिए। हमने मछुआरों को तुरंत रिहा किया जाने और उनकी बोट्स को वापस भेजने पर भी बल दिया। हमने श्रीलंका में रिकंस्ट्रक्शन और रिकंसिलिएशन पर भी बात की। राष्ट्रपति दिसानायक ने अपने समावेशी दृष्टिकोण के बारे में मुझे बताया। हम आशा करते हैं कि श्रीलंका सरकार तमिलों की आकांक्षाओं को पूरा करेगी और श्रीलंका में संविधान के पूर्ण इम्प्लीमेंटेशन और प्रोविजनल काउंसिल इलेक्शन कराने की अपनी प्रतिबद्धता को पूरा करेगी। फ्रेंड, भारत और श्रीलंका का संबंध आपसी विश्वास और सद्भावना पर आधारित है। अपने लोगों की आकांक्षाओं और आशाओं को पूरा करने के लिए हम साथ मिलकर काम करते रहेंगे। एक बार फिर मैं गर्मजोशीपूर्ण स्वागत के लिए राष्ट्रपति दिसानायक का हार्दिक धन्यवाद करता हूं। मुझे विश्वास है कि आने वाले समय में हम अपनी भागीदारी को नई ऊंचाइयों पर ले जाएंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नंद्री बोहोमा स्तुति।
Thank you, Your Excellency. And this concludes today's ceremony. I kindly request all of you to remain seated until the two leaders have departed the room.
So that was Prime Minister Modi talking about the several deals that have been signed between India and Sri Lanka, including the Trincomalee solar power plant that will, he says, provide energy aid to Sri Lanka and will enable Sri Lanka to eventually export power. He also talks about aid to Sri Lanka in unique digital identity. He has further spoken about Tamilians, Indian origin Tamilians in Sri Lanka, saying that 10,000 houses will be built to house the Indian origin Tamilians that are currently in Sri Lanka. He has reiterated the commitment to Tamilians in Sri Lanka, saying that he hopes that Sri Lanka itself is committed to serving the needs of Indian origin Tamilians that are currently residing in Sri Lanka. Now, both countries have signed 7 Memorandum of Understandings in defense, energy, digital infrastructure, health and trade sectors. And this is amid concerns over China's expanding influence across the Indian Ocean region. Now, earlier, as you could see in the visuals, Prime Minister Modi also was conferred with the prestigious Mitra Vibhushan medal by Sri Lanka. This was given to him by the government of Sri Lanka in honor of his exceptional efforts to strengthen bilateral ties and promote the shared cultural and spiritual heritage of the two nations. The medal is, this is the 22nd International Award conferred by a foreign nation to Prime Minister Modi. And the medal was specially instituted to recognize extraordinary global friendships, reflecting the depth and warmth of India-Sri Lanka relations.
40 करोड़ भारतीयों का सम्मान, यह भारत और
Now, Prime Minister Modi and the Sri Lankan President Kumara Dasanayake signed seven MOUs just now, and this was during a 3-day visit of the Prime Minister to the island nation. What President Dasanayake had earlier said is that he's pleased to announce the government of Sri Lanka has decided to confer upon Prime Minister Modi the highest Sri Lanka honour, the Sri Lanka Mitra Vibhushana Award. Prime Minister Modi highly deserves this honour, and that is what we firmly believe. This is what the Sri Lankan President had said, reiterating the strong ties between India and Sri Lanka. Now, we earlier saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Sri Lankan President jointly inaugurating the Sampur solar power project virtually, and we also saw exchange of agreements and memorandum of understandings that took place earlier, followed by delegation-level talks between the Prime Minister and the Sri Lankan President Dasanayake. Prime Minister Modi had also earlier received a ceremonial guard of honour as he kicked off the visit to the island nation. And right now, what has happened is both the countries have signed 7 memorandum of understandings in the defence, energy, digital infrastructure, health and trade sectors. So let's listen into what Prime Minister Modi said on being conferred with the Mitra Vibhushan Award by the Sri Lankan President.
आज राष्ट्रपति दिसानायक द्वारा श्रीलंका मित्र विभूषण से सम्मानित किया जाना मेरे लिए गौरव की बात है। यह सम्मान केवल मेरा सम्मान नहीं, बल्कि यह 140 करोड़ भारतीयों का सम्मान है। यह भारत और श्रीलंका के लोगों के बीच ऐतिहासिक संबंधों और गहरी मित्रता का सम्मान है। इस सम्मान के लिए मैं राष्ट्रपति जी का, श्रीलंका सरकार और यहाँ के लोगों का हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ।
The Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also visit Anuradhapura in northern Sri Lanka tomorrow to pay homage at the sacred India-Sri Lanka. This was the city destroyed by the Indian Chola dynasty invasion, and it is the city that India is helping regain its importance both economically and culturally. Here's more.
A decade ago, the Prime Minister of India in his first term was in Anuradhapura, the ancient city of Sri Lanka. Prime Minister Modi paid homage at the Sri Mahabodhi tree in Anuradhapura's Mahamevna Gardens. This ancient tree was the sapling of the Bodhi tree under which Buddha attained enlightenment in Bodh Gaya. It was brought to Anuradhapura by Mauryan Emperor Ashoka's daughter Sanghamitra in the 3rd century BC. Her brother Mahendra was sent with a Buddhist delegation by their father to Lanka. Anuradhapura was then the capital city of the island country. According to traditional Sri Lankan chronicles such as the Mahavamsa and the Deepavamsa, the then king of Anuradhapura, Devanampiya Tissa, received sermons from Mahendra and converted to Buddhism, and so did his people. The city of Anuradhapura was established a couple of centuries before this by a banished prince of Indian origin. It was named after one of his ministers, Anuradha. It was initially called Anuradha Grama. This older name was also mentioned in the work of ancient Greek and Roman scholars. Anuradhapura served as the capital of successive Lankan kingdoms for centuries till the destructive invasion of Chola kings Raja Raja I and his son Rajendra I. Over the next centuries till the British colonial rule, Anuradhapura lost its glory as the capital of Sri Lanka. Nearly 205 kilometers from Colombo in the north-central plain of Sri Lanka, Anuradhapura today is a World UNESCO Heritage Site and the capital city of the province by the historic Malwatu Oya River. The Indian Prime Minister will be back again in this ancient city a decade later to pay homage to the ancient Bodhi tree that planted Buddhism in the island nation. Bureau Report, India Today.
Right, I'm being joined by my colleague Geeta Mohan, who continues to be with us on the broadcast with more details. Geeta, break it down for us on what exactly happened in the bilateral meet between Prime Minister Modi and President Dasanayake. What were the key MOUs that were signed?
Well, we were discussing it just a while ago. Very important agreements that have been signed and memoranda of understandings that have been signed between the two countries. But look, let's just take a few areas and then we'll expand on the others. The delegation level meetings have taken place. The press statement is over. Sampura solar power plant has been inaugurated. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to return to Taj Samudra right behind me, and which is where he's
We're going to try and establish that connection with Geeta Mohan in just a bit, who's just getting us the latest on what happened in the bilateral meet between Prime Minister Modi and President Dasanayake in Sri Lanka.